What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, what you should be looking after for the future. I'm going to break down the current setup on Tesla's stock right now and how this could actually play out for the future. I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall markets and how this may affect Tesla. So I give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow. I'm going to break down quadruple witching, why that could be big for the markets, and I'm going to end the video by talking about what's going on with Elon Musk, as the guy sold another $3.6 billion worth of Tesla's stock to fund what's going on with Twitter. I'm not going to really call it a disaster like the way these mainstream articles are. And I'm also going to talk about how many of these Tesla shares has he sold in total and what this means for Tesla for the near term. Now, before I break anything down about Elon Musk, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla's share price, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, taking none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla was green by about 0.55% for the day. It's a little bit green in the after hours, and now it's starting to show some nice relative strength. But tomorrow is going to be very interesting because we also have quadruple witching. And if you don't know what that is, just to be very blunt, it's the date in which contracts for index futures, stock futures, index options, and stock options expire simultaneously. So we have so many options expirations, and this often leads to lots of volatility in the markets. Currently, at the time I'm recording this for SPY, we have about 472,000 calls in the money, 1.9 million out the money. And then for the put side, we have about 600,000 in the money and over 3 million puts out the money. So that's going to be very, very interesting, guys, seeing how this really plays out. There's both a bullish and a bearish case that could really happen. You could argue that the shorts may want to get like kind of squeezed out of their positions by the market makers, and that's why the market could pump just a little bit. But at the same time, there's so many puts out the money. Maybe they try to tank the market to get them to the other side. Either one of them are very possible. And I do believe that what else is interesting is, even if the market does end up like tanking a bit, I don't think Tesla's going to be as heavily affected as before, especially after the relative strength it's showing. What's good about Tesla is we had nice volume today, 121 million, and over millions of buyers all over the world are really starting to come in, and they're really starting to buy around these levels. We are seeing lots and lots of money pumping into Tesla again as buyers are starting to defend their positions. And what else is interesting is, coming down to the short volume percentage, it's been on a slight decline, so it might come down a little bit more if the trend continues the way it has. What else is good about Tesla is the price pairs ratio actually starting to bounce a little bit. I did mention this yesterday. I predicted that this would happen, and I mentioned another critical zone, as Tesla is quite oversold and it is overdue for a bit of a bounce. Looking at some volume, we had lots of buying right over here. Like I mentioned, the bulls came in around this 153-ish level, and they wanted to push this thing up and start defending their positions. So that is actually very good to see, but there's no guarantee this will last forever, so still be very cautious. Tesla's green 48% of the time on Fridays, so I do anticipate Tesla to be a little bit flat. I don't expect it to explode instantly, but I do believe there is potential for us to get a bullish move, maybe going into next week if things go as planned. On top of that, the short interest was actually spiking like crazy just a couple of days ago, especially right before Elon Musk happened to end up like disclosing the whole like selling. So in my opinion, this, maybe it was a coincidence, maybe not, but if the short interest kind of like spikes this much in such a short period of time, it tends to actually come down a little bit. There could be some covering like every now and then, and this could actually help Tesla boost to the upside just a little bit for another day or so. Now, when you look at the overall technical setup, I mentioned to everyone I'm watching this like 152 to 150 level. I wanted to see buyers come here and get a bounce, and I predicted Tesla would bounce around here as it was quite oversold. If you look at the setup, this is now resembling an inverse head and shoulders like formation, and I do believe this time it's more likely to actually play out because Tesla is still showing some nice relative strength. But there is one thing that could actually lead some people to become concerned, and that is Elon Musk selling more of these shares. And unfortunately, there's no indication of him being done. I don't know if he's going to sell more or not, but as of right now, we could assume that he's not going to do it, at least for the time being. More news won't come out, because what's good about this is this was something that happened before. He wasn't like selling so much today, or at least there aren't really any key indications of it, but there were a lot of signs, because you noticed a couple of days ago, maybe even like parts of last week, where Tesla was actually like dropping pretty hard and the whole market was actually holding up simultaneously, especially like during these dates right here when SPY pumped and Tesla was just very, very weak. We saw the time when SPY was just barely red and then Tesla ended up tanking despite that happening. So what I think is very interesting is maybe during these instances, this is when Elon Musk was selling. And I do believe he was selling in intervals, not everything at once. And that's part of the reason why Tesla was underperforming. Now, on top of that, we don't know if he's going to sell more. And if we look at the numbers, he sold about $3.6 billion to help fund Twitter. He also mentioned, I mean, he didn't really mention this, but there were some rumors about it, that Elon Musk may be using a part of his Tesla shares as margin to help refinance a part of Tesla's debt. Not Tesla, Twitter's debt. Sorry about that. Twitter's debt. And with Elon Musk running all these companies, it's very easy to mix them up. But anyways, when he does this, right, it's not the best of things for Tesla investors, but so far the shares price hasn't really responded in a negative way, which is a sign that this is becoming more normalized and it's not really affecting us as badly. Now, going back, Mr. Musk has sold about $23 billion worth of Tesla stock this year, and it's very likely he may actually sell a little bit more to help fund what's going on with Twitter. Now, in his eyes, what he's doing with Twitter, in his opinion, is going to be for the greater good for humanity. He is an advocate for free speech and other very important things like that. So I do actually commend, I wouldn't really like commend in him for one specific move, but I will say one thing. I do find it uh, a good move in a way for humanity if you want to just go down that route. However, at the same time, as a Tesla investor, my view is different, right? You have a completely different view. I have a different view because with this whole Twitter fiasco, Elon Musk is going to be more occupied on that. He's, selling billions of dollars worth of Tesla stock. That's the main reason why Tesla is dropping, and people are just very uncertain. They're not really happy about it, and that's the reason why this uncertainty is not very good for Tesla, at least from a more fundamental standpoint. And there have even been some talks about replacing Elon Musk as CEO. My honest view of that is I don't want to go down that route because I still believe Elon Musk is still very capable of running the company and still doing a great job because they have a very amazing team and they are going to continue to do well. Now, looking at this from a technical standpoint, we are seeing this inverse head and shoulders like formation. I do believe that this is going to look very symmetrical. So, what's essentially going to happen is this thing might start popping tomorrow. It's about 162.95. We might see Tesla up a couple of percentage points. And I do believe Tesla's going to trade a little bit sideways here. And there is a possibility that going into next week, this thing might fly and start pushing up a little bit higher just for the later days of the week and retest the 200 EMA. Because if I zoom out of the charts, like this, you guys will quite clearly see there were many instances where Tesla would touch the 200 EMA and get those rejections if I actually go back many, many months. So right here, when Tesla was like selling off back in like November, we push up, we break the 50 EMA, and we ended up testing the 200 EMA right here, and we got a rejection shortly after. Then we saw this thing actually break above it and touch the upper trend line of this channel before we broke all the way down, and we didn't actually come all the way down to the lower trend line. Instead, we bounced off the demand zone. And if we do get a big bounce from here, which is very possible looking at the setup and how well Tesla held up compared to SPY, because SPY actually broke below 390, and it's not the best of signs for the markets. But there are two main possibilities on SPY that I am seeing. The first one would be, actually technically there are three, but the third one is very unlikely. So let's go over the first one. The first one is, in my opinion, it is possible for SPY to actually get a rebound because it did kind of bounce off 387. And if it does continue to push going into tomorrow or maybe even parts of Monday, there's a good possibility SPY will rebound and retest this trend line around this like 394 to 395 area. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it could come very, very close. And that happens to be the bottom of this gap area, which will act as resistance around 395. So if SPY does rebound a bit, that gives Tesla more potential to go for the rebound too and continue with the inverse head and shoulders. Now, the second possibility, and I know I said this is the third one, but this is actually very unlikely. People are talking about this potentially pushing and filling the gap and then getting a rejection. I think that's very, very unlikely looking at how this thing has been performing and looking at resistance that's coming up. Although it's possible, I still believe that it's very unlikely. But here's the bottom line. Even if this thing pushes up, all right, even if SPY hits 395, in my opinion, non-financial advice, it is most likely going to continue coming down, and we're going to head for that 375 gap all the way back here. When SPY actually started to rally, we have this big gap all the way down here around 375. SPY is most likely going to go for that gap fill very soon. So once again, the way SPY moves could affect Tesla, at least to some degree, and Tesla's the one that's showing more relative strength. SPY is either, in my opinion, going to push up to this trend line, then get a big rejection. All right, and it's going to crash down to 375 afterwards. All right, or we just don't even get the big rebound and we just collapse from here since we did close below 390. Either one of those are very possible, but either way, I do see this thing coming down over the next few weeks. All right, so once again, we either push up to this trend line, reject, and come down to 375, or we just start heading for 375 like right now. It could also happen without the big rebound, but I do think it's a little bit more likely to at least try for it looking at the current setup. We'll just have to wait and see, especially because quad witching is coming and it's very hard to predict that. For Tesla, what am I essentially anticipating? For Tesla, I believe this thing, like I mentioned, is going to push up all the way back to this range right here, and it may even go all the way up to about 170 a share. And I actually drew this out a couple of days ago. But anyways, it still is very possible. I do believe Tesla could get a big push, and I'm really hoping that this inverse head and shoulders formation plays out. The only problem with Tesla is it's kind of risky in my opinion, because what if this thing pushes up a bit and Elon Musk sells another 10 million shares, another few million shares? That would not be a good thing, and there is still a risk of that happening. Is there any confirmation of it? No, but it is still a possibility. Now, looking at the VIX, I mentioned to everyone, I expected the VIX to start respecting an uptrend. I expected this thing to start bouncing and pushing up. And so far, this thing is respecting a nice uptrend. If you look at the daily, it was very oversold and it went to its key demand zone between 19 and 20. It actually bounced off 18.95, very close, and it's respecting an uptrend, which is a bearish sign for the markets. Looking at the 10-year Treasury yield, this thing was actually a little bit down today, but at the same time, it has potential to bounce very, very soon because it's actually holding the support. And once the market really gets ready to tank, which is going to happen in a couple of weeks, and I'm talking about January, I do expect the market to come down pretty hard. This thing could easily start pushing up, going for the gap fills and start pushing up, which would be bearish for the markets. And then finally, we have the dollar index. I was predicting this thing bouncing very, very soon. And as you guys could see, we were in this very big demand zone right here, and we finally got a bounce off the support. So that's once again a bearish signal for the markets. So I'm anticipating, like I said before, SPY is either going to get one last push, one last attempt to retest the trend line before getting a big rejection, or this thing just collapses from here. Either one of them are very, very possible, and I do believe that will affect Tesla. Tesla is going to outperform it, in my opinion. I'm hoping for tomorrow, like I said, we get a nice push to about 162 to 163, 163.17 around there. Very, very possible. And if it does do that, there's a lot of hope for it to continue pushing for next week to retest a lot of these EMAs. Now, I don't expect Tesla, however, to ultimately go all the way back to like 200 or like 185 or some crazy high number like that because of the current state of the market and how this thing has been performing recently from a more macro perspective. But I do believe there's a little bit room for it to push up. Anyways, that's basically what I have for this video. There's no indication of Elon Musk selling more as of right now, but it is still very possible. So be ready for that just in case. But I still believe it's more likely that we continue to kind of like hold this pattern and this inverse head and shoulders does end up playing out. I'm very hopeful for it, as we did see a lot of buying right over here, and there are buyers still stepping in. Thank you for listening. have a very fantastic rest of the day. Get ready for tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting. I expect lots of volatility from SPY because of quad witching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. I'm still very bullish long-term, and peace out.